Hi, I'm Jay, and this is a presentation I made for my philosophy class. So, what is the meaning of life? I'm not kidding. There are a lot of different kinds of answers to this question given by a lot of different kinds of people throughout the ages. So why don't you all join me in having a think on it? Well, maybe there's just something essential to who we are, like the love of knowledge that we must serve in order to be truly human. Plato and Aristotle seem to think so. Or maybe the nihilists are right, and existence truly is meaningless. Perhaps God, or a God, created us all for some purpose, but do such beings even exist? And if they do, what if they created all of us with no particular purpose in mind? Maybe we all just have to choose life's meaning for ourselves, since anyone who tries to impose meaning on you is just another person, equally ignorant of purpose. Or maybe, just maybe, the meaning of life is to labor. Hear me out. And by me, I mean Karl Marx. To determine if labor really is the meaning of life, we gotta know what it is, and Marx gives us this, saying that labor is to appropriate nature and change it to suit us. Does that make sense? We cut down trees for wood to build fires, mine metal and coal, build houses, skyscrapers, cities. There is no labor that is not, in some sense, appropriating nature. But in what sense does that make it the meaning of life? Well, to live within nature as a human, and therefore a part of nature, mustn't you change it? In a physical sense, you need to eat and drink, changing the materials which compose you. According to Aristotle, nature itself is a principle of change. But then, are our lives only as meaningful as any animal or plant? Maybe. Maybe not. After all, humans have something more than an individual life, but life as a species. We as our species being have all of nature as our body in ways that other animals do not. The species being can learn and adapt, accumulating knowledge and interchanging nature as our life activity. We can each freely choose to do different types of labor, appropriating nature. And since we are a part of nature and changing it with ourselves, doesn't that mean that we're putting a little piece of ourselves into the nature we appropriate? That's what Karl Marx suggests the meaning of life to be. So Jay, how much of Marx's work did we get through in determining all that? 2 pages! What? Welcome to philosophy! Well, what else did he write about? See, now that's the thing. He didn't think our society was structured in a way that anyone could really pursue that meaning. See, the labor here is an intimate process, that of taking something of nature and changing it, putting yourself into it. It doesn't mean just using your muscles and mind. Punching a wall over and over again, even if someone pays you, is not a fulfillment of that process. But if you found some wood and cut it into planks and then use them to build a wall that is entirely yours and benefits you in some way, like protecting you from storms or predators, then that's closer to a fulfillment of the process. The problem is, society makes our day-in, day-out jobs look a lot closer to the former example than the latter. When you're a person on an assembly line, you take something that someone else has already appropriated from nature, and you make a very small piece of a thing, which is then assembled into a thing with a lot of other pieces, each one made by a different person. That thing is then sold by someone who isn't you, so that it benefits someone else who isn't you, and that person gives the other person money, and a very small amount of that money makes it to you. You do this again and again, perhaps not even knowing what the final project looks like, and receive money for it. You take that money and buy yourself food and clothing, made by people that you don't even know, just so that you can live one more day. This process is alienation, and it separates you from your labor. The labor, your purpose, is reduced to simple numbers and figures to be evaluated in the interest of maximizing another's benefit. Alienation deprives you from the choice of work, instead making you a slave to it, as your being is restricted and tied to a single task, which you must toil at for the most basic of necessities. Instead of living to work, we live for the time we have a reprieve from it. We learn to hate our labor and its products, not seeing them as part of us anymore. Alienation reduces our lives, rich in potential as a species, into simple, physical necessity. Those whose labor is exploited by the powerful are alienated and cannot turn their labor into anything but a chore, a requirement. Those who accumulate wealth by exploiting this system alienate themselves as well, and thus do not find fulfillment in getting more. Only those who have become wealthy enough to have the opportunity to create freely can be content. Many of you will know Karl Marx as a man who started communist revolutions in Russia, which ended in totalitarian control. And I understand if that has led you to reduce his ideas down, abstract them, and demonize them. But knowing his reasoning, perhaps you can understand how he saw problems with society at the time, and how some of those problems persist today. We still have alienation. Do you know where your breakfast today came from? Even if you grew it in your garden, you probably bought seeds from the store, which were collected and packaged by someone else. Do you know all the results of what your occupation does? And do you live for the moments when you labor, or the moments you don't? Someone who probably wasn't Confucius once said, "Choose a job you love, and you'll never work a day in your life." But I think Marx might say something along the lines of, if you have a job that alienates you, you may never truly work. Thank you.